Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first full episode of the ACSELL Cast. In today's episode, we'd like to tell you more about Interreg Europe, who supports ACSELL. We'll go over what it is, why you should participate in Interreg Europe projects, and what the good practices you gain from participating are. To do this, we invited Emma Klever to join us. Here's today's episode. Well, we have the wonderful support of Emma Klever, who from Bureau Benton is a consultant. And I think it'd be wonderful to hear a little bit more about you, how you got to do what you do, and a little bit more of your background.
So I'm working on specifically on European projects, and that is just something I rolled into, throughout the work that I did before. I have a background in international relations and in European cultural studies, and ended up working in Brussels for an NGO on European integration and also citizen participation. And after a couple of years, I moved back actually to the Netherlands to work on European projects. So that was just an opportunity that came by. And once you're a bit into the Brussels bubble or the European jargon, it's also very much applicable in European projects. So that's how I ended up working on these projects. But it's a lot of fun because even though it seems very technical, you work with different groups of people all across Europe together. Like every day, you have a new group to call and a new topic to work on. So it's a very diverse job. Very interesting.
Yeah, no, I love it just because of that, all these wonderful and exciting opportunities for exchange and learning. And there's so much, really to be learned.
Maybe now is the chance to, say and talk a little bit about Bureau Benton. So what is Bureau Benton? Who are you? Where are you? So what are you doing?
I work as a European project consultant at Bureau Benton, which is really difficult to pronounce abroad. Yeah,
Bureau Benton or
Benton. Yeah, it's unexplainable, really, in in most other languages.
is there a meaning? So what does it mean?
It's so bureau or agency or consultancy outside. So buiten means outside. And that's actually because the basis of the consultancy is spatial economy. So regional development, spatial economy, but also leisure economy and sustainability. So really what your outside space looks like and how you can develop it also economically. And from that perspective, they started to use European funds. So that was a really good match because there was a lot of European funds available, especially for these topics. And I think for 10, 15 years now, next to these content parts, we're also working on the European projects. And I'm specifically working on the European projects part.
And another colleague of yours is also joining the team. Maybe you can introduce the other people as well.
Yeah. So Jan Joris van Kampen is providing the financial support for the project because, when doing a European project, there's a lot of financial aspects to keep in mind. They don't just give you the money, but they want to see something for everything that you spend, which takes some work from every partner, of course. But Jan Joris is also supporting everyone in that.
Great. Don't mess with the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, excellent. Good to have you on board. Absolutely. And we are very happy to have you guiding us through all these different regulations, which are important, of course, and also with all your experience in managing the project, that we are sure to get the right content across because it's all about learning. So maybe you can share some of your learnings about Interreg. So how do you support organizations like the University of Tübingen and other partners in projects like Interreg? So what are the main things you are doing, and so where are maybe the largest gaps at partners with the university that they need help and support?
Yeah, well, I guess it's good to distinguish between two things because one thing is, of course, the content of the project, where you are learning from each other. So within Interreg Europe, you're learning from each other as a region and your policy on a different topic. And on the other hand, you have the project criteria that need to be met, the reporting that has to be done, and that's also a bit of learning. It can be a steep curve if it's the first project that you're doing. So the way I'm assisting the partners, is to make that part a bit easier. Of course, you can't take away the work, but when you're working on a project, you're often very enthusiastic about the topic of the project and the content, and you're not so much looking to meeting the outputs, or writing down every meeting that you had. So by trying to keep track of that and pointing it out every now and then, trying to do the work that I can do. Obviously, of course, with Sandra as project leader, that's the way we try to assist.
Yeah, fabulous. Absolutely. So we all do projects and we all learn, but what is so special about Interreg? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that whole Interreg program. So what is this all about and what makes it maybe special to other programs?
Yeah. So you have a lot of different European funding programs that you can apply for money, to pay part of your project. And Interreg is really focused on exchange between European regions and also the development of European regions. And then you have different type of Interreg projects. So you can do some exchange across the border, or you can do some exchange in a whole region of Europe. So say Northwest Europe, or any big region, or you can do it with regions across the whole of Europe, and that is the Interreg Europe program, where the ACSELL project is part of. So that is really based on learning from the policy on a topic, and in this case, that would be healthcare innovation, and including SMEs in healthcare innovation, how other regions are doing this, and of course. You're often very used to how something is in your country or in your region. And then when you move abroad, for example, you suddenly see that all the things you thought were normal and logical are suddenly not, because in another country they made a different decision and they have a different system, and that works as well. But you never realized there could be another system or another policy that works as well. And obviously not everyone can move abroad, but the Interreg Europe project kind of gives you the chance to exchange still and to get these other viewpoints from other regions in other countries on what also could work and what kind of practices you could also adopt in your region. So there's a bit of traveling involved, but normally you can just stay where you are and then still learn from the other perspectives.
Yeah, I'm glad you're with us and helping us improve the project, because it is really about making sure that you can use all of those experiences and really, optimize all of the knowledge and the learning that is exchanged. Just to really make sure that you use it. But yeah, beyond that, I mean, a lot of people or a lot of partners maybe wonder why they should participate in Interreg Europe projects. I don't know if you have an answer for that, but it's good to be able to see, what is the added benefit or what's the added value of participating in these types of regional learning and exchange projects.
Yeah, well, obviously, I think you can give the best testimony on that question. As participating in several European projects and also several Interreg Europe projects. But I think from what I see, that the benefit is to look across these borders. So to get these other perspectives. But it really needs to fit the team you are working on. So doing a European project just because you want to do one or because you want to be eligible for the funds is probably not going to bring you a lot. But if you want to do it because you're really interested and you're really keen to learn from other regions and just to look, how things are going elsewhere, then it's really an added value. So also in terms of writing a proposal, it's best to stick to what you really want and what you're really enthusiastic about, and anything that's not, you can tell. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's really difficult, maybe also at the beginning to really convey the benefit, because sometimes it's just necessary to be able to experience it yourself. Experience the benefits of speaking with others from or counterparts from your own job or from your own discipline, talking to them from another region, and to realize that, whoa, they really deal with the same issues. How can, Italy and Norway have maybe similar issues, or whatever. I think that can also be sometimes quite useful, just to realize that everybody has similar challenges. We're all in the same boat, and let's see how we can, make a better Europe, I guess, to be, not to sound too pathetic, but
Yeah, no, but exactly. I think that's also like where European platform organizations, or any other European exchange form, whether it's linked to the university or whether it's linked to a specific sector or businesses in a specific sector, can be a platform to actually start developing a project together. When you meet each other and you realize that there's something to be gained, you can just look at the funds that are available. But sometimes, also people approach us, for example, they just say, we want to learn. We don't know how, but we want to learn. What are the options? You can also, there are always people that can assist you with looking at the options on your team.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, talking about practices, a large share of the work is focusing on good practices. Actually, that people, as you just mentioned, learn something, and on the other hand, it's a kind of a show and tell. So, what is a good practice exactly, and how do projects like Excel approach good practices? How do you come up with a good practice as a partner? Maybe you can share some learnings already with us.
Yeah, well, that is a tricky one, because the same way you don't always realize that another perspective can exist on what you do, you also don't realize what your perspective is that could be interesting for others. So in order to find these good practices, well, we were also discussing within ACSELL, you probably need to see what others are doing first, and then discuss and reflect and get their viewpoint also on what you are doing that is so interesting. But of course, we're talking about living labs within the project. There's a model that's being used to identify what stakeholders, how they look towards innovation, what they appreciate. So these, anything that is a model that can be replicated, anything that has been a process that others can learn from, could be a good practice. So obviously, you can never adopt it one to one to your region, but you can still learn from it.
Yeah, and it can also be an organization, as I've learned, because I mean, this is one of these typical examples. I remember that we had this wonderful organization in our region, and we tried and shared to present this, what they are doing. So we were all about the program and the policies. That this organization was somehow involved in. And finally, at the very end, after our presentations, some guests from other countries and regions told us, Sandra, Daniel, by the way, this is a good practice, your organization. And we said, yeah, we looked at each other and said, oh, yeah, you're right. That's a good practice. So, and then finally, we did the whole process and brought it up to that Interreg good practice learning platform and shared it with others. So actually, this is what Europe is about, as you mentioned. Exchange of yes, different solutions for similar problems and same challenges. Yeah, and sharing the same values and not inventing the wheel on and on again. Yeah. So talking about invention and innovation and reinventing wheels and stuff like that. So, what do you think? What is the biggest challenge when we talk about learning from other regions? Do you have any experiences or maybe stories? So, what are the barriers? Maybe the biggest barriers of learning from other regions?
Well, I mean, you always have to be careful, because it's easy to, get some generalizations about countries or regions, and that's obviously mostly not true. But there's definitely, when there is a language barrier, or an actual frontier, it can just be hard to cross that and to fully understand what the other is working on, or how it functions. And what you often see with European projects are people that are experienced with European projects. So they have already exchanged with other people in other countries. So they have this open mind. They know these other perspectives exist. And I think that might be the challenge also when you participate for the first time. You expect things will go in a certain way, will be arranged in a certain way or managed in a certain way. But every country, every company, every organization has its own culture in a way, how things are done. And I guess just keeping an open mind to that, and maybe just some curiosity to see how it goes, that helps the learning process.
So we all have to be open, obviously.
Yes,
But
it sounds a bit cliche, but it's
yeah,
really true. Yes.
no. I completely, yeah, I agree, and I definitely can understand that. Yeah, but often I think the challenge is, maybe you have an open person and character and personality, but you are somehow stuck in an organization that might not be so open. So, how to deal with that? Any ideas?
Well, that's a difficult one, but obviously that exists, or I guess more often than we think. And I think that is something that already in the application phase, of starting a European project should already be dealt with in a way. So when you are personally very enthusiastic about a certain project or a certain cooperation, you need to kind of take the organization with you. So that is also part of writing an application. Is often a lot of work, and it feels like it takes ages, and then you need to wait for an answer also for ages. But it's actually quite important to use this period, obviously with the partnership, to get to know each other and know what you want to do together, but also within your own organization to make sure that you're not the only one that's on board for this project, and that your colleagues are also interested, and that your boss also supports it, and obviously that there's also some financial commitment. But yeah, this period is more than a nuisance. It's also you can utilize it for this actually.
No, that's a good point. I think that you, of course, should start early. So already when you start writing the application, I get that, and I think I've got good experiences with, when the project is running, with actually with these formats of learning. So, for instance, often you have these typical field trips to other regions, and then you meet and speak to people, and I've learned already so much. And when I get abroad and visit other countries, of course, but also I've learned and got support by visiting delegations, because they help me in order to organize and mobilize my stakeholders in my organization, which sometimes is not maybe the fastest one, to get more open, bring new people in, and actually you are forced to start a dialogue and to open, because a delegation is coming in and you have to organize a program. So I think often it's also these kind of instruments that help you in order to support yourself, by inviting people from other countries, and then everybody starts to reflecting on, what are we doing, so what are we good at in our health system, and where do we have obviously something to change, for instance, or so what is good with our innovation processes and the innovation system and the ecosystem, and where do we have obviously, yeah, room for improvement or so. um, yeah, so what would be the best start, of, yeah, to think of a good practice, when you are a partner in a project? So is there a good lesson learned already, when to start thinking about good practices?
Well, I guess it's good to realize that Interreg Europe wants you to develop these good practices, and that when your project is approved and you're sitting around the table for your first meeting, with the partnership, that you don't only think about, okay, what needs to be done now, but you're already looking forward, okay, in 2 years or in 3 years, or maybe in four, where do we want to be? What do we need to have achieved? But also, not only on paper, but what do we want to achieve by then? And already look forward. Perhaps you can already start a first brainstorm about what would be a good practice, either in your own organization or with some partners. You can weave it through the process of your project, all the different milestones of the project, to reflect on this. Use the moments that you have when you meet, to discuss it already. So, I mean, I wouldn't force everyone to submit a good practice in the first month, but I would start the thinking process already, and utilize all the moments that you speak to each other already for the project.
Yeah, I like that. Talking about good practices, actually, for me, Interreg Europe itself is a good practice. But looking at the calendar, I see that the program will terminate soon. So, what's next? So, is there a new Interreg Europe phase, or did you know already? Did you hear rumors about something else?
Yeah, no, so it's true. So the European budget is always agreed for 7 years, and December will be the end of the current budget, and in January, hopefully, a new budget will start. But this involves a lot of negotiations on the highest European level, so that might actually take some more time. And then the whole Interreg program, with all these different sub-programs, so cross-border, European regions, and Interreg Europe, will be continued. So it will come back also with the Interreg name, probably. And also Interreg Europe will come back. When you look at the announcements, they even have some kind of planning where they want to have a program for Interreg Europe ready in the summer of 2021. So hopefully that schedule can be kept, because that is the question. The negotiations are really dragging on. That might actually mean that some programs will start quite late. So you have a kind of a gap between this period and when you have the funding available for the next period. But I'm counting on Interreg Europe to come back, because they wanted to keep something that has the whole of Europe involved. They didn't just want to keep the ones that are only cross-border or a specific region.
Yeah, definitely. But I also think, it seems like a lot of people are looking for good practices. It seems like, there's more awareness on how good practices from other regions can really be of benefit. And so it's just a matter of also, yeah, maybe conveying that message that there is this platform, there is this opportunity to be able to engage with others and see what they do, how they deal with specific issues, and how that can be transferred into your own context. So I think I also have this feeling that it's a good opportunity to be able to engage many more people from across Europe. And there's so much more work to be done. So I'm glad that there will be more funding available for the next program for the next 7 years. And it would be very interesting to see how and what it looks like. What are the topics? What are the priorities? If they stay the same, or if they'll, have some kind of adjustments, or, also their good practices, right? And what have we learned from the last 7 years, and how can that be put into practice for the next 7 years and improved? So, yeah, looking forward to that.
Thank you so much, Emma. It was great talking to you.
Emma, thank you so much for your insights and helping, I think, our listeners better understand Interreg Europe and how it works. So thank you so much. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks. It was nice to talk to you, and we have a couple of more years of cooperation ahead of us. So looking forward to that too.
Indeed, I'm very much looking forward to working with you. So thank you, Emma, for joining us for today's episode. We'd also like to thank you, our listeners, for joining us. Check the show notes to see where you can find more information about Borough Boughton, Interreg Europe, and the ACSELL project. ACSELL Cast is created by myself, Sandra Evans, as well as Daniel Boer, Christine Hopkins, and Markus Schreiber.